What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Father and Son Gaming Podcast right here on Active Reload Gaming. My name is Kobe, aka Kobe127. To the bottom of me is Kevin, aka Octane699, and to the right of me is returning guest DJSotoLive. How are each and every one of you doing today?
Doing great, man. Doing awesome.
Amazing to
hear.
Some
good gaming in this past week, so really good.
Man, I wish I had some good gaming, but instead I was on a week-long bender going to 5 different states. We had the pre-recorded podcast last week where we reviewed Battlefield 6 and Ninja Gaiden 4. But I did get to play a little bit on the Ally. So ready to talk about that later. Dad, how you doing?
Not too bad, actually. It's coming into the fourth quarter where the games are starting to drop already, and there's again just not enough time in a day, to get all these great games. I was just watching one of our Discord chats, and somebody's talking about the Bloodlines 2. I can't wait to play that. And it's set in Seattle.
As a Seattle resident now, I'm also excited to get into it. Heard some good things, heard some bad things. It seems like it's pretty mixed, but I think what I've heard is if you're a fan of the original Bloodlines, this game is not for you. But if you're coming in with fresh eyes, I think people are enjoying it, and it's got that quirky, fun feel to the game. And it's vampires, so if you're into the vampire mythology, it is there for you.
And I think I got shamed by Kobe a little bit today or yesterday because he said, "What am I playing?"
What?
With
I
all
never
these
shame.
games out there? Come on. And I just finished, or I'm ready to finish. I got about 20 minutes. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He's like, "Dad, with all this stuff that's out there and you're playing that," I'm like, I just needed to shut my mind.
Out of all the new games that have come out, you have Battlefield 6. I know you finished that, but you have Outer Worlds 2, Ghost of Yote, Keeper, Ninja Gaiden 4. Out of all the games, you go and you're like, what do I want to play? Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on the Switch, of all places.
Yo, I gotta play it, man. It's outstanding. It's one of those games again. It's you just shut your mind off and go. And I was feeling Christmassy, and I saw this and I'm like, I'm gonna play it. And I absolutely loved it. It was fun.
That's awesome.
I do see some people in the chat. Hello, Bombay. I hope you had a great weekend too. And, to everyone joining, I would like to just remind each and every one of you that this is the Father and Son Gaming Podcast right here on Active Reload Gaming. You can follow all of our socials right here on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Blue Sky. We are at Active Reload Gaming. On Twitter or X and Twitch, we are at Active Rel. That is with an REL, Active Rel Gaming. With that, not up here, but there usually is a QR code somewhere right there. Boom. If you scan that in the top left corner, that does go right to our Discord. So you can scan it, hop in, start chatting with us, start talking about gaming news or any pickups that you have done recently, and just hop in and chat with us. We're trying to build a community. With that being said, we are here to talk about VR and handhelds and a slew of other topics. But before that, I'd like to open the floor. Dad, you have been playing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, so realistically, I don't need to hear what else you're playing because that's mainly it. So, DJ, what have you been playing?
Oh, man. So I got back into Star Citizen. It's been a bit since I messed with that one. That's still under development. And so we had some fun with that. But there is one you guys should check out. Add to your wish list. RV There Yet.
Saw that popping off on Steam.
Yeah, it was fun. You and 4 friends go camping, but on your way home, the main highway is washed out or a landslide or something like that. So you have to find your way through the back roads in your RV. And, there's ditches, there's fires, there's a bunch. It's like a puzzler almost. And you have to try to figure out how to get through. You got to put planks down so the RV can ride over it. Bears are in the woods. You have to repair it. It's a lot of fun. You should definitely put that on the list. So RV There Yet. Been doing that. Do some Star Citizen. And we're having some fun with Path of Titan, still rocking that one. And Arc Raiders. We were messing with Arc Raiders for the beta weekend. That was a lot of fun. So
yeah. So what do you think about? What do you think about Arc Raiders? Because I only got to really realistically play an hour of it. I thought the tutorial was a great, tone setter. I really liked how you run. You see kind of the atmosphere, what the storytelling is going to be, the world. Kill you, and then you have to go actually loot. You kind of figure out the looting system. But that first time dropping into one of the levels and actually seeing these mechs roaming around and encountering players, I thought it has a good gameplay loop. It's not as heavy on the PvP as I was expecting, which is a very interesting design choice. I think if you are hunting players in Arc Raiders, I almost feel like you're kind of playing the game a little bit wrong. Do you agree?
Right. No, I agree with that. And by the way, I see a lady in the chat about landmines and RV there yet. We were lady's one of my drivers.
There's landmines?
Yeah, there's landmines. We discovered that. Didn't know that. But we discovered very quickly landmines in the game.
That's awesome.
But yeah, going back to Arc Raiders, I thought it was fantastic. I was pleasantly surprised. Now, it was not on my radar, but every video I saw on social media, people that did not like extraction shooters liked Arc Raiders, and that kind of perked my attention. And they said it was really good. So I was like, all right, let me lock into this one. So, and I agree, it's a fantastic shooter. It is an extraction. There is a PvP aspect to it. I don't think it's heavy on the PvP, but it's definitely still there. You're definitely going to get your loot taken. But I think it's like a fun Tarkov. I don't know have you played Escape from Tarkov?
I played Tarkov a while ago, and that was so in terms of just extraction shooters, I've played Tarkov and it was like fine, but it definitely didn't scratch that part of the brain that I wanted. I really got into Hunt Showdown. Hunt Showdown was my extraction shooter. I liked the kind of the realism aspect of it, how slow the gameplay was. Like there's animations for everything counts. It had that slow methodical gameplay along with the creatures of the bayou, and I really like that setting going back to like 1886. I that's the one I really got into.
Yeah, and for me, Tarkov, I love Hunt Showdown, by the way. That was a really good one. I wish I had more time on that game. But Tarkov for me was just too hardcore, man, for the sweats that play the game. I mean, it's just too hard to keep up with. And so I know extraction shooters kind of have a bad rap, right? But this one, I felt really good about it because it was fun. Even when I lost stuff, it wasn't like, that frustrating. I still had a good time. I think the world building's amazing. I think the robots, the arc enemies are fantastic. The vibe and the lore, the graphics, the gunplay, the design, like everything about it is just really well done.
Yes.
And I really like it a lot. So like if you're like not into extraction shooters, and I'm not either, you should definitely give Arc Raiders a try because it's still fun. There still is PvP. You're definitely going to have someone take your stuff, but it's not as sweaty in my mind as Tarkov. And I'm trying to think of the other extraction shooter. I can't remember, but I liked it a lot.
So now,
going back to our Rust days, I don't like dying and people taking my stuff.
Rust, man. Definitely not as hardcore as Rust or Tarkov. So.
But now I'm curious that you've gotten more time with the server slam, and I've only played an hour. How are you feeling about the $40 price point? Because it is a kind of a big ask in order to go in and try an extraction shooter, which is not everyone's genre.
Yeah, I guess in one sense there's like a repetitiveness to it, but for the server slam, everything wasn't open, right? Not all the crafting was open, not all the maps were open. So I think. Like I would have bought it if it was just what I saw, but there's going to be so much more to it. So I do think it's a good value. It is a curious choice why they didn't go free to play like they did the finals, right? Was it the finals?
Yeah, the finals is their other game.
Yeah, and that's what I was expecting, a free to play experience. But I don't know, it's solid. So 40 in my mind isn't too bad.
Yeah. Bombay in the chat says Tarkov is a game you can't casually play. The gear imbalance between a casual and a person who plays it 16 hours a day is a fair bit much. Yeah. And from what I played of Arc Raiders, and I agree with what DJ said, it's not as sweaty as I was anticipating. I do like the core gameplay feel for a third-person shooter. It's good. It feels great. There is some wackiness to the game that I really do like. Like you can get into like some high gear areas by doing some stupid parkouring. I don't know if you saw that, where like you kind of like edge off of a ledge and then you quickly start tapping spacebar to climb up. And I do think when it does come to PvP combat, it's really great. And I think the one thing that Arc Raiders does well, which kind of loops back to our Helldivers conversation, it feels very cinematic without being scripted cinematics. And that is what I really liked, especially with some of these spider arc bots, like where if you shoot it from a distance, that thing goes flying towards you. And I've seen clips online like where it can actually crawl down into the pipes with you and like start like chasing you.
You're talking about the big one, the big spider?
Yeah, the big spiders that can chase you around. So I do think it's an interesting game. I'm curious to see what kind of legs it's going to have and how it's going to stand up in the extraction shooter genre. Obviously, we do have Bungie's Marathon coming out at some point. But, that game got silently, or not silently, but it has been delayed after the art controversy, because a lot of the art in that game was stolen from an
That's
artist
crazy.
online. So it's a shame. And a lot of people didn't really care for the play test that they were doing, but apparently some people have been breaking NDAs, and this information is online that the new alpha that people have been playing start to like Marathon a little bit more. So I'm curious to see how Arc Raiders is going to stand up against Marathon, because both of them are kind of leaning in on the, not on as heavy on the PvP aspect as like a Tarkov, where you go in and like there might be a couple scavs or whatever they're called, but then it's mainly just people blasting each other. But yeah, I enjoyed the game.
Yeah, I
go
like
back to I think I go back to Bungie Halo 1, Halo 2 talking about Marathon back then. That was a game that they were in development for a long time.
Well, Marathon was the original IP that they ever started with. So
Okay, that's what I thought.
This is the new iteration post Destiny. It's like what does a post Destiny world look like for Bungie? And while I don't know if Marathon to me makes the most logical sense post Destiny, I think a Destiny 3 or something else makes the most sense. I'm curious to see, because they're also saying it's going to probably be a $40 title. So I'm curious to see what going to shake out at the end of this all.
Didn't Destiny take a sharp downward turn? I mean, I thought Destiny 1 everybody loved. Destiny 2 came out, and then it was a big sharp turn downwards.
It ebbed and flowed. It still kept a huge player base, and especially with a lot of the expansions, like some expansions did really well, some expansions did not as well. People weren't as fans. But yeah, Destiny has always had a fan base that ebbs and flows, but it seems like it did have a dedicated fan base that, I mean, they're still updating it. They brought a whole Star Wars expansion not too long ago to the game, so it's still there.
When all else fails, get Star Wars in there, and then we'll be good.
Yep.
And then it picks everything back up.
Yeah.
Just one quick thought about Arc Raiders, if you don't mind. What I think is super unique is the balance of PvE and PvP. There's one thing I haven't wrapped my brain around, and that's the Queen. The Queen has the highest level loot. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like, because you can go a squad of 3. I don't think a squad of 3 can take it. I think you have to get everyone on the map to not kill each other, to get together to take the Queen. It doesn't seem like there's any other way. So that's an interesting mechanic that I'm really curious to dive into.
It really reminds me, and this is going to be a weird comparison, but it reminds me of like World of Warcraft raids, where you need to have like hundreds of people, or like you said, everyone on the map, go and really take this boss on. And it's just communication. You need people to have an idea of like, okay, we need to go in and do this, but then if you kill the Queen, is everyone just going to go guns blazing on one another? So it's going to be
that's what it has to.
Yeah,
unless you divvy it up, but there's going to be so many betrayals.
They had the same thing back with Sea of Thieves. I remember there was one achievement, one thing. It was something Blackbeard or something with a beard, because we got it, where you had to get everybody on the server to not shoot each other and all have to go do this. And I remember Aaron, somebody that was on our Discord for a while that I'd play with, we actually got it at 2:00 in the morning, got everybody on the server to say, look, we're not going to shoot. We're all going to go for this. And I remember you got a little diamond in your beard or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, I remember when the Megalodon first released in Sea of Thieves, you needed a boat, people, like more than 4 people, because you needed like 6 people with the drum in order to summon the Megalodon for the first time. So it's possible. People can be nice in these games. You just got the coordinate and hope you get the best. But yeah, excited for Arc Raiders. I hope it comes out soon. If no one else has anything to say, I do want to start transitioning, because Shem Blue in the chat is already talking about it. I want to talk about the Halo Campaign Evolved remake. Right? Have you two seen it? Have you looked at it?
No.
All right.
Yeah, I saw a quick trailer. Isn't this the second remake? Excuse me.
Yes, this is so that's where it gets funny. They had the remaster on the 360. It was the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, and then it was ported to Master Chief Collection. So whether you count this as 2 or 3, that is up to your discretion. But yes, Halo Campaign Evolved was announced over the weekend at the Halo Championship Series. This was the last HCS for Halo Infinite multiplayer. Halo Campaign Evolved is a full remake. It is fully built from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5. Halo Studios, it's no longer 343 Industries. They got rebranded in the Halo Studios, is taking this on. They ditched the slip space engine, which is what Halo has notoriously ran on since the OG days. They fully moved this into Unreal 5. People have had a lot of thoughts online, but as I've watched this trailer, I love Halo. Halo is the game that brought all of us together. I remember that's where I met my best friends. That's where we gamed the most. We talked about in the very first podcast episode with you on the picture in the basement, in my dad's basement, of us in Halo 3. So Halo is very special, very nostalgic for me, and I'm sure a lot of people in this chat. And it's crazy to see, right off the bat, how this game visually looks. Like, Unreal 5 is doing a lot of wonders here for Halo 1. Like, this is, and I've seen like the lead artists from the original come on and say like, this looks amazing. It's what they wish they could have done with Bungie back then if they had the technology. So visually, I want to start there. How do you feel about this from a visual standpoint? I'll pass it off to you first, DJ.
Yeah, I mean, just based off the trailer, it looks fantastic, and the gameplay trailer, it looks amazing. And I think it's, like you said, nostalgic, going back to the original days. I mean, that's the reason why I got an Xbox. I remember specifically, I think I was in Walmart looking at an Xbox or a PlayStation, trying to decide which one I wanted to get, and kept hearing about this Halo. And I was like, all right, I think I'm going to I got the Xbox just because of Halo, and the rest is history. I don't know how many hours we put into Halo Combat Evolved, the campaign, the co-op, and the multiplayer. I mean, I can't even, I wish there was like a Steam way to find out how many hours you put into Halo. But no, I think I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be good. I mean, just even seeing the Warthog drop now is such a nostalgic moment.
Oh, yeah.
Driving that around. Oh, yeah, that's classic. It's fantastic.
Dad, what about you?
Yeah, 100% the visuals make it. It's almost going from a 2D picture to a 3D picture. I mean, because the graphics in here in Unreal 5, I mean, I know people give Unreal 5 a little bit of hate, which, again, I think it's warranted hate with the jitters and everything else. But when you look at a classic like this, I wish there was a side-by-side, to be honest with you, to show what the real, Halo 1 looked like when it first came out in, 2001?
I can pull it up. Yes,
out?
it was 2001, because next year is the 25-year anniversary of Halo, and this is why this game is being made, to celebrate the anniversary of Halo, the start of Xbox, all of it.
I know you're talking about the graphics, but because we're looking at the Warthog, the one thing that I hope they do not change is the mechanics of driving the Warthog. I thought it was probably the most unique mechanics of how to drive a vehicle, and felt outstanding once you figured out how to drive it and steer it. I thought it was just great the way that when you go back, I'm going back in my memory to 2001 of any other game using a vehicle, and same with their flying and everything else. I hope they don't change those.
There you go. I pulled up a side by side for you. They have said that the driving, from the people who played the demo, previews and people who were at the event space, they have played the game, and they said the driving does feel the same. It's the physics-based driving, so it's all there. But they have tweaked it a little bit, that from later editions you can't control the vehicle mid-fall. But yeah, you can see right here, this is a side-by-side comparison of what the OG Halo on Xbox original looked like versus the new campaign Evolved in Unreal Engine 5.
I mean, just look at the details of the ship, of the water. The water really gets me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt, head and shoulders above. But I also want to say, dang, Halo Combat Evolved back in the days looked good. Still looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
It does.
20-some years later, obviously the new one's, the resolution's much better. But dang, it looks good from back in the day.
Now, the big thing that they said was, it is a full remake, and I guess they're taking liberties to add certain, I don't know if it was levels.
Yes. So I'm going to do a rundown of all the new features with this remake, what they're promising. So with Halo Campaign Evolved, they are promising, it's fully made in Unreal Engine 5. There's new modernized gameplay mechanics. They are taking mechanics from later Halo editions. So, for example, you can now sprint in this game. I have seen a lot of controversy about the sprinting in this. I'm fine with it. If you really don't want to sprint, you don't have to click the button in. That's my thing, or just turn off the setting. But you can now sprint. The levels are a little bit bigger. There are new weapons that were never in the original Halo, such as the Energy Sword. The Energy Sword is going to be in Halo Combat Evolved for the first time, along with, Sentinel beams. Elites and Covenant now drop their weapons that you couldn't previously use. So they're doing a whole bunch of changes. There's going to be new skulls added into the game that weren't there before. So a reason to go hunting for the skulls again. There is going to be 3 new prequel levels added to the story of a buddy cop arc with Sergeant Johnson and Master Chief. So I think it's going to be really cool to see 3 brand new levels that add to the overall story. And the other big addition is 4-player co-op instead of 2-player co-op. In the original Halo, it was only 2-player co-op online. It still is on the Master Chief Collection. There is couch co-op as well, but couch co-op is only up to 2 players. In order to do the full 4-player co-op, it is online only. That being said, there is one huge caveat with the game. There is no PvP multiplayer. That is the one thing that they have said.
Oof,
if you look at
rough.
the title now, it says campaign. It doesn't say game.
Yeah.
It says campaign.
Yep, campaign evolved.
That's a big ball drop for me, man. Because Halo, I mean, obviously it's the Covenant, it's the campaign, the story of Master Chief, but I mean, we did that campaign, but where do we spend 90% of our time? Playing multiplayer, PvP, Blood Gulch, Capture the Flag. That's wild that they're not including some basic like multiplayer.
Now, could this be again just easing the PlayStation into it, without doing it and then bring it along later? Is that
first off, Bombay asked, I don't remember, is this a all systems release? Yes, this is the first time that Halo is going to be on PlayStation. It's also going to be on PC and Xbox consoles. No word on Switch 2 yet.
And I just have a little question. You said we're seeing them sprint here. You made a statement that if you don't want to sprint, just don't push it. Isn't that going back to my,
you keep harping
difficulty slider?
Keep harping on this.
Is that taking away from the integrity of what the art was meant to be?
Listen, there is a huge portion of people online who are doing that, but this is a remake. Where they're remaking the game. This is their new vision. So
I'm just saying, it's not what the original artist said. Just like my difficulty slider. You can't talk out of both sides of your mouth.
Two very different things. But in terms of your question of easing the PlayStation in, I'm going to look at Gears of War Reloaded.
True.
It had multiplayer, it had the campaign. Now this is where we get into the remaster, remake territory. Gears of War, what was really done, how much was lifted. This is much more of an overhaul than Gears 1 was. Gears 1, at the end of the day, was pretty much the same game, just with prettier graphics, but the multiplayer suite was there, and it was a $40 package. And now the one thing that I'm curious about is, what is the price point going to be on this game? Is this going to be a $70 campaign?
They can't make this $70 and not include Forge and include, multiplayer. They just can't do it.
I think so.
They absolutely can.
Well, they can. It would just be $70 without multiplayer. That's rough.
It would be egregious.
That's rough. I'm still disappointed. I'm still this big letdown.
I mean, to play devil's advocate here, there are a lot of AAA PlayStation campaign-only games that are $70 coming out, and Switch as well. Pokemon ZA Legends is a $70 game. So, now we got to weigh, what's the $70 metric? There's a whole conversation to be had. But I also agree. I don't, if it is campaign-only, I think this should probably be, a $50 title. Maybe $60 at most.
Max, yeah.
So, but yeah, the lack of multiplayer is a little disappointing, because I remember going back to Halo original and just any Halo. Halo is a sum of 2 parts. The campaign with co-op is one, and the other is multiplayer. You can not have Forge because the original never had Forge, and that is fine. But people want that multiplayer, that PvP, that arena-based combat. And it is strange that they announced the campaign evolved at the esports tournament with no multiplayer. I do think that was a little funny. Also, side note, I do work at Xbox, and my opinions reflect the company, so on. This is just my own personal opinions as a big Halo fan. So yeah, the lack of multiplayer is interesting, but I'm curious to see if there's going to be a multiplayer component later on, because they are very strategic with their wording, which is campaign evolved. So
Yeah,
I
but
think we
one they shouldn't. You don't think that they would learn from their past mistakes with the last Halo? How much flack it got from not dropping, all the co-op and the Forge with it, and
the one I
all the
mean, the one thing that I can think of is at the end of the day, like Bombay in the chat says, this is something that they could add in months later. We also don't know the plans with multiplayer. We don't know what Halo Studios is working on. That being said, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, it is a remake of the campaign, and I think 343 has gotten a lot of flack, rightfully so, in their time. And being this is the huge rebranding moment, and Halo 1's campaign is one of the most iconic campaigns of all time, I feel like that the new studio and the rebranding, they just want to prove themselves with the core Halo component of the campaign. Say this is what we're doing, this is our vision, and let's see if it actually lands. Agree?
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's a mistake. At the end of the day, it's a
Yeah,
mistake.
big mistake. Yeah.
Here's always my feeling. Like, I would rather you delay it another year to polish it off, give everybody what they want. Don't piecemeal this crap out there. I'm fine with it. Take another year. There's enough games out there for me to play. So take another year and give the fans what they want. That's what I want to say at the end of the day. Give the fans what they want. The fans want the complete package. They want, again, I'm all fine. I told you that many podcasts ago. I'm all fine with Microsoft making the decision to, put the stuff on PlayStation. I get it. That's where the majority of the people are playing. Might as well make the money. But at the end of the day, do it right or don't do it at all.
Yeah, because we're looking like a 10, 15-hour campaign at the end of the day. Because like Halo wasn't that long of a game. Like,
it was super replayability with the skulls and everything else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I guess my point being that like if you told me they're remaking it and there's multiplayer and I get to play Capture the Flag on Blood Gulch, man, I would be so excited. I am just regularly excited about it. This is going to be good. It's going to be fun. I'll enjoy it. Probably get it. Maybe. But if it was multiplayer, it'd be without question dropping whatever $70. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Now I'm just kind of like probably, and it's going to be fun and cool. But that multiplayer, at least for me personally, that was Halo multiplayer. You know what I mean? So
yeah, hands down, agree with that. Again, I love the campaign. Absolutely loved it. But like you said, the majority of the fun and the majority of the, identity of Halo was 100%. That revolutionized the multiplayer and how people played it. LAN parties, everything. I mean, it was it. And why would you leave that component out?
Shampoo says it's the decade of classic games reskinned in Unreal Engine. And then Bombay says, I still play most games as for the campaigns, so lack of PvP isn't a huge deal for me in my current gaming days. Maybe they're going to set up a Halo Battle Royale and they want to drop that.
Well, that was in the last Halo that dropped. That was the rumor that they were coming out with the Battle Royale. And they didn't. But I agree with you, Bombay. Like, and as I'm getting older, I'm more campaign driven. But this is definitely one that I would 110% play. The multiplayer, because it's just has so many fond memories. Griff Ball and Rocket Race and just to capture the flag was so iconic. I mean, you had red versus blue born out of this. There's just so much behind this that they need to put that multiplayer back in there.
Well, there is still a year from release. We don't have a concrete release date. We only know that it is 2026. There could be something more that we just do not know about because, like I said, they're very strategic with their wording of what this game actually is, campaign evolved. And they are doing a lot for the campaign. Like I said, 3 new levels that have never been seen before. This game's completely redone in Unreal 5, brand new cinematics. They're bringing back all the voice actors to re-record their lines. They're recomposing the music. Like, this is a passion project. This is fully remade. So I'm curious. And, I love Halo 1's campaign. It's so iconic. All we have to do is wait and see.
Here's a thought. Just think about this, because everything's money grab anymore. Separate this out, because we just praised how big the Halo campaign, the Halo multiplayer is. Do they separate this out and then they come out with a free to play, multiplayer where they're going to microtrans everything to death? Maybe that's their go at it, because that seems that that's where they're making their money, is this microtransactions. So maybe they break this out, they get this out there, they throw out the multiplayer free to play and microtrans.
I mean, that's what they did with Halo Infinite.
Correct. So maybe that's their new roadmap for the multiplayer.
I mean, live service is everything nowadays, so I could see that happening. I think that might be plausible because, like I said, that's what I'm saying. They're saying campaign evolved. You never know. There might be a multiplayer evolved or something like that.
But just think about it. You're putting a live service on PlayStation. I mean, think about the money that you can grasp there. I mean, you're still looking at a Fortnite free to play and one of the biggest money makers in the world currently, top 3. So maybe they're trying to follow a roadmap.
And that's the thing is, in the current gaming sphere, obviously Halo's always been a big name, but Halo has to land and do a full force punch in order to make a statement, especially on PlayStation. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to do it, how they're going to bring in the audience, because I know a lot of audience members on PlayStation. Obviously, everyone knows who Master Chief is in the gaming realm. He's an icon, but a lot of these people haven't been able to play the game because they've been purely PlayStation. So to get them into the campaign, I think it's a good primer. I hope multiplayer comes at some point too. That is my hope. And like you said, maybe it is a free-to-play component that they're just not talking about at the moment. They just want to show off, hey, this is what we're doing. So any last thoughts about Halo?
No. Like I said, I'm excited. I just hope that multiplayer comes, and maybe there's an announcement later. But I'm sure they're going to hear from the fans. The fans are not going to let this one slide.
Oh, sure. The fans have been vocal. They've been vocal. No one's happy. But before we move on to our handheld and VR discussion, the main topic of the show, I just want to take a quick word from our website.
Got games you don't play anymore? Turn that collection into cash at ActiveReloadGaming.com. It's fast, it's easy, and you get paid quick. Or if you are looking to buy, check us out on eBay or scroll through our Games by console. Find us at ActiveReloadGaming.com.
And we are back. So, like I said, the main part of this whole episode of the podcast is a handheld and VR discussion. Last week, Dad, you and I were able to get the Xbox Ally, ROG Xbox Ally X. It is always a mouthful to say that. Never get used to it. I've actually had about 8 hours with all my plane rides playing it. I really enjoy it. I think it's a great handheld device. I've been playing mainly Keeper on it. It runs the games very well. I am enjoying my time with it. But I do want to start kind of diving into handhelds and VR as a market, because I feel like they're in a very similar market and a very similar conversation. But before we do that, Dad, have you gotten more time with the Ally, and how do you feel about it?
I probably put about 6 hours in the Ally. At the end of the day, it's an outstanding handheld PC. I still don't see it as an Xbox product. I really don't. But as a PC, I think it holds up, one of the best. At the end of the day, like we said in our previous conversation, it is a niche. And if I had to buy a Steam Deck or this, and I had $1,000 to drop, I would probably buy this over the Steam Deck, because you can get the Steam Deck on it. I've already loaded the Steam Deck on this, my Steam account, I should say, on it. It runs flawless. It's just like running it on your PC, to be honest with you. So I only did that, and I loaded up a game and played it for a little bit. The majority of my time has been on the new Xbox, until they completely strip out, which I don't know that they ever will, until they can completely strip out the Windows bloat and the Windows back and make it a true UI of Xbox. It'll never be an Xbox handheld to me. It's still a handheld PC with a little bit of branding on it.
I mean,
I'm not
go for it.
I was going to say, I'm not super familiar with handhelds. So you would pick the ROG. Is it called the ROG? ROG?
Yeah. It's called
Over
the
the
ROG
Steam Deck?
Ally X.
The ROG
ROG Ally.
No, the ROG Xbox Ally X.
Ally
The ROG
X.
Ally X is a different product.
Correct.
Is it like just Xbox branding, or is it owned by Xbox?
It is. So the manufacturer is Asus. They manufactured the hardware, but they worked with Microsoft Xbox to develop a new Xbox software that is on top of Windows that boots into it, and it goes into the Xbox PC app that you use, but it's more of a compact mode to
Interesting.
work with the handheld device.
It's got an Xbox button on it now to take you right to the Xbox.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean,
So that one over the Steam Deck, huh? I thought the Steam Deck was the king. Not anymore?
Well, this just came out, what, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. It's now the thing about I wish they would have come out with an OLED. That's the only thing that really puts it down. But let me say that I've been playing with this, and I say that in my mind because it's $1,000. I've been playing it, not once that I say, oh my goodness, the screen looks horrible. I wish it was an OLED. Like, never did I say that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that this does Steam and Xbox perfectly, where the Steam Deck, I had a side load emulate the storefront to get into my Xbox.
Here's what I will say. If your library is primarily Steam, I wouldn't invest the money into this thing. But if you do have Game Pass and want to play like on the Xbox platform, or if you want to play the Epic Games Launcher, and also if you want to play some multiplayer games that require the anti-cheat software that the Steam Deck doesn't allow because it runs on a Linux OS, then I would start to like shift towards the ROG Xbox Ally X or any Windows-based handheld that is on the market. That being said, as I've gotten more time with it, I understand the Xbox philosophy. I mean, I've seen it. I've been there. I do think there are some annoyances with the Ally that I have been having. I have been getting a lot of BIOS updates that I'm like, okay. Thankfully,
it's a PC, though.
Yes,
it's a PC.
But here's the thing: when you market it as a Xbox handheld, and this is where the marketing comes into play, which is, you want the ease of use of a console, and the Steam Deck is easier to use, 100%. Like, you boot it up, boom, you're done. Like, that is it. You go into the Steam Big Picture mode. The Xbox Ally X still has that Windows jank to it that you will have to kind of be a little finicky with. But I still prefer the Xbox Ally X over the Steam Deck. One, ergonomics are absolutely phenomenal. It is the best handheld that I've held. I play mainly Xbox Game Pass these days. A lot of my games are on there, and I do have my Steam games, but that's kind of the main reasons why I prefer it. And the power, it is very powerful. You are running games, high quality games, upwards to 50, 60 frames. Bombay asks, how's the battery life on the ROG? Depends on the game. With any handheld, what kind of game you're running. I was running Keeper primarily off the battery on performance mode, and I got about 4.5 hours on it.
That was about 4.5.
If you play an indie game like playing Hades 2, I was able to squeeze more, about 6 to 7-ish out of it. But if you are playing like Cyberpunk at its highest quality that the handheld can have, you're looking about 2 to 3 hours, I would say. It just really comes down to the game.
Here's something respectfully I got to disagree. You said that you take the Steam Deck and you just turn it on and you're into it and everything else. That's looking at it myopically. That's looking at it saying that I have my Steam Deck because I'm only going to play Steam games. But if you wanted to get into the Epic Game Store, if you wanted to get into your Xbox Game Store, it's not turn it on and play.
But that's what I'm saying is, if you only have a Steam digital library and only want to play Steam games, it is way easier to use the Steam Deck rather than the Xbox Ally X.
So with me, I have Steam, I have some Epic stuff because I get on and I get their free games just like everybody else does when they're out there. And I have my Xbox. So me being in 3 unique ecosystems, that's where I'm saying, to me, this is, at the end of the day, it's no different than the PC you're playing on, just clicking into them. Because what you can do with this, DJ, is, yes, it opens up and it starts up with a pseudo Xbox UI, but you could go into Windows mode with it. And the Windows mode, not perfect, but it's still better than your regular Windows. They did cut out some of the bloat. So
Well,
for me to get into my Steam was pretty seamless.
and I do want to say, because you talked about the bloat earlier, and we're going to move on to VR here in a second. With the Xbox booted up software, that software does remove a lot of the Windows bloat. It doesn't prioritize the system processes that Windows needs to run. Now, if you go into Windows mode, those processes are brought in and it's just Windows on your device. But if you do primarily stay in the intended software boot up, and they already have Steam pre-installed for you. Like my Steam was already installed. It was right there. And so is Epic Games Launcher. Like they have your launchers right there. Stay in the compact mode as intended. You will not notice a lot of the Windows bloat. At least I haven't. Mileage may vary, but
I do get a lot of updates. At the end of the day, it's a PC.
Yeah, there is a lot of updates. You do get the Windows update as soon as you start up, or the Asus BIOS update. But I do want to kind of start shifting, because I wanted to bring up this conversation because I feel like handhelds are a niche market, kind of like VR. And VR has been in a very interesting space recently, because I feel like VR has been kind of quietly forgotten about. So I just want to start high level. DJ, you are the VR guru. Since as long as I've known you, you have been shouting VR from the rooftops. You've been kind of going all in on it as a technology. You know, we've always said VR, especially when it started, was the 1980s cell phone. It's there. The proof of concept is there. We need to just keep iterating on it. But as you've started to see more and more competitors pull out of the market, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's really only Meta left who is kind of investing in the VR ecosystem. Where is VR now? I know you have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
So let's start breaking down VR.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on VR, so feel free to interrupt at any time, because I could just talk all day about it. I was an early adopter, got it in 2016. That was the catalyst from switching from Mac to PC. I was a Mac guy for many years, and VR at the time, you needed a good computer, and so I switched to PC just for VR. There you go, the Quest 2. He's putting that on. And so I'm a big fan of VR. I've been there since from the beginning. I've watched the evolution. I've watched it become smaller, faster, better, more form factor. I've seen the adoption increase. But yeah, I mean, where it is now, and there's a lot of nuances, but generally speaking, it feels like it's stalled out, which is really disappointing as a VR fan. Because let me say this, PC gaming, or let's say 2D gaming, is the experiences like Battlefield, Elden Ring, Red Dead Redemption, their games are just better than VR. But there are moments in VR in all the games that spike in moments that are just mind-blowing and incredible that a 2D PC experience can't even touch, right? So overall, PC gaming is better, quote unquote. But with VR, there's these spiking moments that make it just unbelievable. And so it's kind of frustrating for me as a big VR fan that it's kind of stalled out. I think Meta is really the only main player. And thankfully, they've invested billions of dollars to keep this thing moving, developing headsets. They have the App Store. There's games coming out, but the games are really more like you would get on your iPhone or something, Angry Birds or something that are it's not necessarily low quality, but it isn't the AAA feeling that you get when you play PC games. These are more just cutesy little shoot 'em ups and different things like that.
I do want to jump in there, because that's one of the main reasons why I ever tapped out of VR, which is the content realistically got so stale for me, where it felt like the same rinse and repeat experience over and over again. It's like, okay, how many times am I going to get excited pulling a sword out for the first time? How many times am I going to get excited pulling a bow and arrow back for the first time? And obviously those are very general examples, but it's okay, I feel like where the content that I stopped playing, VR relied on the same tricks in terms of the content, and it kind of stalled out. Half-Life Alyx was the last game I played, and Half-Life Alyx was an incredible experience.
Was awesome. Yeah.
And I feel like that was the last, there has been AAA attempts at VR, and I played it on stream. Alien Rogue Incursion was a VR title, but now that got translated into a 2D title. And I find it interesting that you're seeing more and more people who have attempted a VR game are pulling out and kind of translating, or just going fully back to 2D. And VR really doesn't get a lot of love as it once did. And, I want to ask, in your opinion, and this also goes for you, Dad, in VR and handhelds, how niche realistically are VR and handhelds today? Are they just subcultures, or are they smaller slices of mainstream gaming?
Yeah, I do think it's a little more. It's the adoption is definitely growing, but it's still probably considered niche. It's probably still in that category, but it is adopting more and more. I agree to your point that the last great VR game was Half-Life Alyx, like a game that would make people buy like
Yeah.
a console or a PC or VR. Half-Life Alyx moved hardware, like Halo would move the Xbox back in the day. We haven't seen that for a long time, and which is really disappointing. I feel like early on, 2016 to 2018, 19, 20, people were diving in. They're really excited. VR is the future. You had the AAA developers, Star Trek IP. Everyone was getting excited, but the adoption wasn't there. So I think the numbers just didn't match. They were like, we can't make money off this. So
Yeah.
I feel like that was the pullout. Now, with that being said, like if you had asked me 2 or 3 months ago, is VR dead or is it stalled? I wouldn't say it's dead by any means, but has it stalled out? I'd be like, yeah, there's nothing interesting happening. But in the past couple months, and I feel like this is just hot off the press, I'm noticing some indie developers doing some incredible work. So you're not going to look to the Ubisoft. You're not even going to look to Meta. There's like these single devs that are starting to come into the VR space recently that are creating unique experiences that could, I don't know if it will, this might be a grandiose statement, that could usher in the next renaissance of VR gaming. There is one where it's kind of like cyberpunk. It's very scaled down, very much simple, but you're a cop in a cyberpunk city, very immersive. There's another one that's like not Star Citizen by any means, but you're traveling across all these planets. They're crude, it's not fleshed out, but the brilliance of these single dev developers in the indie space for VR is starting to show some interesting things. So I don't think it's dead, and it has stalled. But the silver lining in the cloud is there are some people doing some really, really cool stuff that makes me excited about VR again.
See, I think the big thing is, and it's with any technology, you can have the greatest, console power wise. If you don't have the games being made from it, and it's been proving over history, then no matter how great the technology it is, it's going to stall. I feel that when PlayStation 2 came out with their VR and that flopped miserably, I feel like the big companies that make games for VR said, "Whoa, if PlayStation can't make that go, that has a bigger name than Oculus, Meta, whatever you wanted to call it at the time." I think that put the brakes on some people. And then second to my statement, and I think I'm working up to agree with what your last statement was. Second, I think that we see the state of these big, AAA companies that, wow, we got to put out what we know is a proven seller. We don't have the revenue or the extra funds to take the risks. So now you're back to the only way, in my opinion, that the VR is going to again excel. It's going to be on the indie level. It's the only way it's going to be.
So
And we're seeing that just recently. There's some really interesting titles that could really change the game in these indie guys. So it's not going to be the AAA that saves VR if you want to frame it that way. It's definitely going to be the indie devs, the single guy, single dev, working out of the garage or whatever. That's going to save VR.
You're back to indie games, period. And I'm not saying this because Kobe works at Xbox, but out of everybody big power that I've seen, they've taken the initiative with their ID initiative a long time to give that, that 5 minutes of that 5 seconds of fame to an indie and shine the light on it. Who is it that's going to lead the charge? Is it Meta that starts some type of indie?
It would have to be Meta, because if they're the only player left,
Correct,
realistically, in the VR space. But and two things. One, Bombay is chatting away. I want to say that they said, I bought PSVR 1 for RE7, and I could only play it for an hour before it got to be too much aiming with my head super quickly. And I think eye/head tracking cameras could use some more work and integration into more types of games. Now, here's my question, because obviously we're all in agreement VR has stalled immensely, and even handhelds, and I want to kind of start tying them together. Handhelds as a market, as of earlier this year, only sold like 6 million between 6 million units between all the PC handhelds that are currently out there, obviously excluding Switch. Switch is its own thing. What is causing this? Is it hardware constraints that is really pushing people away? Is it pricing models? Like, for example, with handhelds, is it the ergonomics? Is it the battery life? Is it just not the use case? With VR, is it the comfort, the optics, the input, like having the stand in order to do it? Like, what is it that is kind of keeping people on the fence? Because, like, to your point, that if PlayStation can't bring people in, now granted, their pricing was a little high at that point when they did release the PSVR 2, and I feel like they were trying to prove it as a model. If a big company like PlayStation can't do it, what is it that is holding people back from jumping into VR? Because there's obviously killer apps out there. You know, you've tried it. Meta, I've heard incredible things. Like, it has gone under the radar, but the new Batman Arkham VR game on Meta apparently is actually an incredible video game. It has a great story, great combat. Like, it is a well-made game. You have the Half-Life Alyx. Even with PSVR 2, you had a new entry into the Horizon series. Like, there were games and big titles that were getting put to this. You even saw like Deadpool VR happening, but no one, I feel like, is jumping and biting at the bait right there. So what is it that is really keeping people from going all in on these devices?
It's got to be Meta. That's the whole thing. That's what we just said. It's got to be somebody that's going to go out and promote that. And why would any studio promote it?
This is where I will humbly disagree. Is you and I were at Summer Game Fest, and any time VR came up, Meta was slapping. Meta was promoting games. You can't deny that their trailers were there, and in a lot of these showcases, even at the Game Awards, at Summer Game Fest, and some of these, they are, and PC Gaming, they are throwing VR stuff there. Meta is trying.
You're talking to a finite group of people, though. You got to get it out to the masses. The way that VR is going to survive is they have to move more hardware. That's the bottom line of it. So talking to somebody at Summer Game Fest, it's such a finite group of people that I'd say probably half of them already had some type of Oculus.
But I guess is the content not exciting? I know DJ is saying the indies are really popping off. But, you know, in the age of TikTok and short form media, a lot of these games have been popping off because of exposure and these funny clips. Like, it's rare, unless if it's DJ, I always see his clips going off with VR, but I really don't see any other like VR creators out there. So it's like there is a lot of pillars that need to happen.
Yeah, there's a few like large VR creators, but nothing like PC or console, right? Not to that scale. I think, in my opinion, and this is like an overgeneralization, oversimplification of what needs to happen, but it is the form factor. I think it has become smaller, lighter, which it is becoming. But you're putting a box on your head. It's a bit heavy. The Quest 3 is the most comfortable to this point. But it still could use, can you imagine the day where you just put on a pair of glasses? That type of form factor, I think, would get more people into it. Price is another thing. But I do think the golden goose, if you want to call it, is the game. Like we said, Half-Life Alyx moved hardware. Halo is going to move hardware. We just don't have that. Somebody needs to create the Halo or the next Half-Life Alyx, and we need multiple of those, right? We need the Halo, the Gears of War, we need the whatever. And I still, I circle back. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but these indie guys are doing some interesting things. Like Forefront I don't know if it came out yet, but it's the Battlefield version in VR. And some VR creators said it's better than Battlefield. So now we're talking. Now we're getting to that point where there was this big rush with VR, and then it just fell and stalled out. And now we got the indies trying to kick things back up again. So I don't think it's far from over. It's far from being dead. It's definitely stalled.
But see, this is what I'm talking about, DJ. I was a VR guy. I was on VR with you all the time. Mm-hmm. I haven't put this VR probably in 2 years. You're saying the indie gaming is really starting to pump up, and I'm in video games. I haven't heard that once. I haven't seen one ad. I haven't seen one way that they tried to get back to me to get me to put that back on my head. That's where I'm now saying back to Kobe, this is where they got to get in. Talking to a finite and saying Deadpool to me sounded good. I don't know if it's big enough for me to put my headset back on. Hearing the indies, I would. Somebody needs to get that message to me, and it's got to fall on Meta's shoulders,
And
since the vibe is gone, or whatever it was, and the other.
I do want to pull on Bombay. Bombay says small games help fill the voids between large games, but there isn't enough large games to get people to buy into the tech. And Shemplu says, I have Oculus Rift 1, the corded first release from Facebook. Personally, I think it's a niche category. VR, none of the games are as deep as non-VR games, and controls are still not awesome. The screen door effect, heavy/sweaty, etc., etc.
They got rid of all that. The newer ones don't have the screen door effect. Like, I very rarely got it, even on my Oculus 2 here, got it. And I knew the newest one that it's gone. So they've made strides since that first one. And I think, again, the first thing they needed to do was detach a cord from the computer, which Meta did. And then, they took off from there, and then they worked out those bugs. So again, the technology's there. I think it's back to the games, kind of what Bombay's saying. And I think it's a combination of Meta stepping up and getting back. I'm a person that already owns the hardware. Like, why are they not trying to get to me to put that hardware back on? That's the key coming from marketing. But I do want to circle quickly to the handheld and give you my opinion about the handheld. One, the handheld revolution was 100% stoked from Nintendo. Nobody can tell me different. But let's look at Nintendo. Nintendo has always done handheld. They didn't do and revolutionize anything.
Their most profitable units have always been their handheld units.
Handheld, correct. So as they were moving forward, you would see that they were trying to merge their handheld world with their console world. And then they just came up with the brilliant idea. Look, it could be the world putting it in the dock, playing it on the TV, and then when you want to go, you pull it. People at the last minute, businesses at the last minute turned around and said, holy crap, this Nintendo that was never looked at as a player anymore because they never made the most powerful. They didn't make big graphic, quadruple games. They stuck with their Mario. It wasn't running at 120 frames per second, blah, 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 blah. Turned around and they're like, holy crap, this company is blowing us all away combined. Now I think everybody said, well, geez, what is it? What is it? It's the handheld. Now everybody's turning their cannons, because if you go back to PlayStation, PlayStation did what, 2 or 3 handhelds, the Vita, the PSP, couple different iterations.
PSP 3000 and PS Vita.
And they failed in the grand scheme of things. They didn't keep them going. So again, I think that there's a false sense of, oh my goodness, the industry needs handheld because of the revenue that Nintendo's putting up, and they only did it not to be a handheld. They did it out of necessity of survival, and that's where they melted their two worlds together. So I don't think that, and it's going back, you said 6 million units only sold. I think going back that it's a fad. Just me. I think other than Nintendo, I think handhelds are a fad.
Well, and the other thing with Nintendo, we're going to loop back to VR, but Nintendo has the IP to push the Switch. Like no matter what, like even if you have the handhelds, like Switch will always have their Nintendo games, and people love the Nintendo IP. So yeah. I see I'm lagging here. Am I lagging for all of you? You hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. We just got Kobe and Elgato capture card, so hopefully when we get that in, it'll help a little bit.
I'm gonna disable my camera. But yeah, pretty much. Let's see, is this working again? No. All right, someone take it for a little bit. I'm gonna see why this is happening. But yeah, pretty much. I think that everyone is hopping in on the handheld market, but the handheld market is very priced heavily, and I don't know if it's as sustainable as we think it's going to be.
Yeah, again, I think that that has a lot to do with it. I just think that it's a fad. I really do. And again, before everybody jumps on me, not a fad for Nintendo. That is their console. I think it's a fad for the Asuses and the Lenovo's, and Steam Deck. I think is there to stay because that's they tried to jump into the market with their what was their Steam console called that I got hook up to your television. They were trying to make the console, so I do believe
the Steam box.
The Steam box, thank you. I do believe the Steam Deck is here to stay, and I do obviously believe that the Nintendo Switch is here to stay as well. I think the other handhelds are you're going to see them take a massive dip. I don't think they're fat in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like I am back.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The Steam Deck is priced competitively, right? Because you're saying the ROG's 1,000, can't you get a Steam Deck for like 500?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the biggest, but it's again, it's not as powerful as the new ROG Xbox. So again, if you're looking at pure power, again, the ROG Xbox is the most powerful handheld on the market today.
And that's where I feel like there is an intersection between handhelds and VR, because I feel like everyone was jumping in on it. And now we're starting to see, at least with VR, I guess VR was way ahead of the game, the fallout of everyone jumping in on it. I want to bring in some couple chats here, and then we're going to loop back to VR. And DJ, I'm going to pass it back to you. Blue says the killer VR unit will look super crisp. No screen door. Controls will be super intuitive, even more than they are right now. Has to be light, and games have to be super deep, like something you get deep into. And it does make your eyes tired. Does it make your eyes tired? Your head/eyes sweat. It's got to be like you're not wearing goggles at all, almost. And are you saying that the resolutions are so high and pixel DPI is so good that you can't see the pixels screen door? And then Nate Edwards says, don't try to reinvent the wheel. That the problem Nintendo showed you and others try to do what's new.
Well, again, that's kind of going back to what DJ said. When it gets to the form factor, that it's like the Meta glasses that he has now, the augmented reality stuff. Like that's kind of what Shem is explaining is what DJ just explained, that that's when it's going to be really taking off. That I would love to be sitting at work with my normal glasses on playing a video game and nobody knows I'm playing a game. Like, of course that would be incredible to do. But my question to DJ, hearing that, do you think that that's the way that obviously Meta's the only one leading the charge? Do you honestly think that they're even trying to make that a reality?
I think so. I did wonder, but now with the Ray-Bans, they've been working on that technology. I heard they're coming out with a more advanced Quest. I think they're maybe even not using the word Quest. So it does seem like they're still committed to this technology. Now, I wish there was another player because competition drives superior performance. I wish Valve was a little more involved. I don't think they're into it anymore. I guess they still have their VR headset, but I think it seems like they just have it and they're producing it, but not really advancing it. I would love to see Valve get into it and dive into it because I think they would do an amazing job. So I do think Meta's doing decently, all things considered, but I just think another player, with the consoles with PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, that competition alone just, drives that highest quality out of all of them. So Meta's doing a good job, but I just wish there was another player.
Yeah, I wish Valve would get back into it, but the way that I understand, Valve is rumored to be making a console again for your TV, and I
Project Fremont.
Yeah, and I think a lot of their resources, because it's a small studio. If you want a company, it's only 135 employees or something like that.
Valve is a strange company with how they operate.
And not only are they making the console for your TV, I think they're really working diligently behind the scenes to make their Steam OS take over the world of handhelds. I just think that that's where I think Microsoft is behind the game again. They should have been doing this from when they did do a Windows OS and dropped it all. They should have, once Xbox came along, they should have been working on a Windows handheld again, whatever you want to name it. naming convention's not the best thing in the world when it comes to Xbox, but I think that's what Valve is working on, is a Steam OS to kind of use that and push everybody out of the market. So I don't think my whole soliloquy here is, I don't think that they're going to be paying much attention to their VR anymore. Do they even sell it? Can you buy it still?
I think you can still buy the index on the storefront.
The index.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
is HTC still making them, or is the Vive done as well?
I don't know.
The Vive. That's what
I haven't heard anything about them at all. So I would think they were done. There's another player called Big Screen VR, supposed to be the most the smallest VR headset, a pair of glasses, but I haven't heard much from them either. So, I wish the competition, the funding was there. I do think there's a whole dev side to it, where I think devs come in and try to make a VR game based on PC design. So they're like, let's make a shooter, right? And so, but VR can be just anything. Like, I think that the stretching the imagination needs to happen. And that's why these indie devs are really unique in the space, because they are coming up with like really unique ideas, which is VR is prime for. VR is prime for just doing stuff that you can't do on the PC, or the PC can't do on VR. You know what I mean? So
I'll tell you where some games turned me off with it is when I play a video game, I want to kind of relax in a sense and play it. When I was putting on VR and I had to stand in a room and I'm sweating after 10 minutes.
You go pick up a mag that you dropped on the ground, bending over, reaching up, climbing a ladder. I remember you climbing a ladder on that. It was like a Call of Duty game. I forgot the name of it.
Correct. I do.
And you couldn't get up for that last rung, and you were trying to climb in VR.
It's just like, I don't want to sweat doing it. Like that. There's times I do want to just sit in my chair and veg, and play the games, but it's a physical experience. Yeah, for sure. And let's be honest, I don't know that too many gamers want to be physical. They want to sit down and do it. So do the VR that you're sitting down and.
So I do want to bring in another point in this conversation, though, because I'm just looking at the Meta Quest storefront. So the Meta Quest 3 is $500. We can look at the Steam Deck. That's $500. All the PC handhelds are going upwards up to $1,000 now. So I'm guessing, my question is, are premium price points also keeping people from buying these products and keeping it niche? Or is it really just at the thesis of this whole statement, it's a content value problem? Because you can kind of erase the content value problem from the handhelds, because it's just your library of Steam or Xbox, whatever it may be on the Windows platform. I guess with handhelds, is it literally just a use case that some people just do not care about handhelds unless it's the Switch, because that is the only place where they can get those games. So with VR, is it really just the thesis of this whole conversation is it's a content value problem? Along with that, is it also a streamer problem? Because streamers drive games nowadays. That is one of the main marketing revenues and pathways. Are streamers just not getting too much into VR, especially some of the big dogs out there?
Yeah, and I think it coincides. I think you're right on both points. Like, it's a content value problem, and then if there's not good content, why stream it? You know what I mean? Because there's this other amazing game called Arc Raiders that I can stream, right? So, the content creators are there for VR, and the streams are there for VR, but the games aren't. You know what I mean? Like the killer, those killer games. And if they do come, because there are some unique games, they don't come out regularly enough like you would see on PC. Like, we have backlogs on PC. We don't have backlogs on VR, right? We have like 2 or 3 killer good titles, and one is Half-Life Alyx. And on PC, there's like 50. And you know what I mean? So, even if there was something to get excited about, they need to develop like PC. I don't know how that works, but where the next big game comes out, the fall release, you know what I mean? The Christmas release of the VR title, the New Year release. They just don't have that right now.
That's where I circle back to Meta. Meta's got to be the one. If they're leading the charge with the hardware, then they got to lead the charge with the games. Whether they're going out and, funding a studio, take Microsoft. Let's go out, let's fund a studio to make it for my platform. Well, Meta's got to start doing that. You see it with PlayStation, you see it with everybody. Let's fund a studio to be exclusive on my, platform. Well, they're the only ones that are really pushing the hardware, Meta, so why not?
It seems like, and I don't know, this is just from like an observer, outside observer. It seems like they're only focused on like recognizable titles and not the indies. So like the Deadpools, the Assassin's Creeds, the Batman Ark, whatever that Batman VR game, and that's all good and fine. I just don't see them pushing like the one game it's an open sandbox space game, Revria, Revria. Keep your like bookmark that in your brain. The other one's called Meta City Patrol. That's the cyber being a cop in a cyberpunk city. Little games behind the scenes, and nobody knows about these games. I guarantee even VR players probably don't even know about these games, but they're incredible. And that's like you said, Meta needs to be supporting them and to get them on the map. Because Assassin's Creed's cool, Batman's cool, but like I said before, I do think what's going to save VR is the indie devs at the end of the day. One thing that is interesting about VR for the Quest 3, excuse me, is the mixed reality gaming. That's interesting. Have you guys messed with mixed reality gaming? That's kind of cool.
I haven't touched a VR in 3 years.
Yeah, that's like because it has pass through, so you can see your physical space. It's like your wall breaks open and a zombie's coming through, and you're shooting the zombie.
It's almost like a Microsoft HoloLens type.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they just came out the past couple of weeks with the Star Trek experience. I haven't gotten it yet, but it's a mixed reality. I think in VR you fix up what's the bikes from episode 1 or the hover pod racers? Yeah, the pod racers. Yeah. You fix them up in VR, and then in mixed reality, like on your kitchen table, you race them. So you can see your space, and you're racing your VR. So I think the people are still working on it, and they're still doing some interesting things. It's just not at the level of PC gaming at the moment.
But see, to me, the VR, you can't take, and I'll just go because it's fresh on mine from Friday being Fallout Day. You can't take a Fallout 4, for example, and put it on VR. You cannot spend, 80, 100-hour games behind VR. They need to, again, figure it out, do a 4 or 5 hour game, charge $10, $20 or whatever it is, work off of volume, shorter games, less dev time for it because of that. Going back to what Shem said, like he's sweaty, his eyes hurt and everything else. They got to take that into consideration. Make games specifically for VR. Don't try to port PC games to VR.
I feel like they're already doing that, and it's just not succeeding, though. It's not driving that, like, I'll use Alien Rogue Incursion as the example. Brand new title in the Alien franchise, but that didn't really push anything. They did a brand new entry into Horizon series that didn't really do anything. Brand new Batman, like, it's there. The only one that really drove anything was Half-Life Alyx.
But see, when they came out, I feel that the VR was on its downturn already. So, because again, Horizon, that's one that I would have loved to play, but I didn't want to buy the VR 2 because I didn't play that much on the VR 1 for PlayStation. But I think they were on the downturn. You can't use 2 or 3 examples and make that the rule. It just doesn't work that way. And again, I just think that they got to the thing I couldn't stand with VR is they ported in, and let's say it's somebody with a gun and it was 2 floating hands. Like, no, man, if I'm in VR, I want to see my arms. I want to see everything that it's meant for VR. You could tell that they just half-assed it when they ported it in.
There are some games that take new life with VR. So for example, Elite Dangerous, like for me, was this an okay 2D space game, and VR was amazing. So I'm wondering if devs would take the time to port stuff to VR. I just don't think the money's there. That's why they wouldn't do it, the development time. But I don't know, maybe something like that would. I know Meta was working on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Was that the?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it was San Andreas. I think it got scrapped, and that's such a huge disappointment because that could have been an Half-Life Alyx moment where Grand Theft Auto in VR, forget about it, I'm in. They don't, so now it's scrapped, or at least I think it is.
And I know they were doing Resident Evil 4, OG Resident Evil 4 in VR, and I think at some point there was a Village VR mode and maybe a 4 remake VR mode, but I don't know where those ended up being. When I just bring in a couple chats earlier, Shampoo said, speaking of wearing glasses, the Facebook glasses, the Ray-Bans, there was an iFixit video that took them apart and showed how the tech works. Really crazy cool, very worth watching. Drop the link for it. Bombay says all it would take is one Pokemon game to fix the VR issue, and those quick games made a huge impact on VR. Think about how big Beat Saber was.
Sure. And just think about how Pokemon Go went crazy even just for phones. So I agree with that statement.
But it's like,
And
go for it.
oh yeah, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great games on VR. There's like Beat Saber, Boneworks, but even that, like even when I'm rattling off these games, these are what 3 or 4 year old games. So even though we have these awesome experiences, we just don't have the mover shakers that PC does.
But see, I go back to Bombay, which we joked and laughed, but this is exactly what I'm saying. You say have Pokemon. It's got to be on Meta's shoulders to approach the Pokemon franchise and say, look, here's a gob of cash. Let's make something specific for the VR. If we know that that's going to move sales, bring VR to the forefront, move product, to me, that's how you get it back, is you have to, but it's got to be through Meta. If you're going to sit back and say the Pokemon franchise is going to make something for, as we all agree here, a stalled technology, not a stalled technology, then they need to be at the forefront of it. They need to go out and approach this. They can't sit back and say, I'm Meta, people will come to me. It's not going to work that way.
And Shemplu says in the chat, Kevin raised a good point too. In on-monitor games, quote unquote, you can get away with a lot of sloppy implementations. In VR, every bad detail comes through. I noticed that in some games, in-game objects felt too big or not natural, etc. Beat Saber is the only thing I played anymore on my Oculus Rift, and I have not played that in about a year now.
That's a good point Shempler brings up, because like let's say in a shooter, you just press R to reload and it does it, whether it looked good or whatever. In VR, like you have to grab the mag off your chest, eject the magazine, put it in there and click it. Like if you don't have that perfect, it's going to feel funky. You know what I mean? So it's a good point that Shemplu brought up.
Beat Saber is great though.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I really do feel like we're at an impasse, I think, with both products. Like, I think handheld is still in the early stages of where VR was, or in the middle stages at this point, as every company now has pretty much manufactured a handheld. And as we start to move, and I want to ask both of you, as we start to move into the next generation of gaming, it's probably just 2-3 years out from now at this point, where does handhelds and VR even stand? Does VR continue to exist, or does it just become more of a lesser version of what it already is, and you only have the smaller indies kind of supporting it? And handhelds, do you think they're going to be staying, or is it going to be reduced to just pretty much Nintendo being the only handheld on the market? I know that PlayStation 6 had leaks that they do want to have a Switch-like model with it, and obviously with Xbox's initiative, they're going to be putting the Xbox software on multiple things, having OEMs, and that's what we're seeing with the Xbox Ally X. You're having 3 very different avenues. So where do we see within 2 to 3 years now where both of these slices of life happen? And also Shemplu says we need Valve to save us with Deckard. Can you explain what Deckard is in the chat?
But just while we're waiting for him to explain that, I'll just jump in here. I think VR is going to last because I think Meta is both feet in, and that's their lane, whether it be their Ray-Bans or that. So I think that's going to last. I think handhelds are going to be a fad. You're going to see PlayStation stay there. I mean, not PlayStation, I'm sorry. You're going to see Nintendo stay there. You're going to see, obviously, PlayStation take a shot at it, but I think that's going to fade away in 5 years. You'll still have maybe a Lenovo out there or something like that, but I don't think you're going to see it become part of the new gaming experiences, everybody's handhelds. I just don't see it. And then when you think about the handhelds, if everybody bowed out, Asus has their own stuff with computers and chips and all the other stuff. Lenovo does their own stuff. So if they bow out of it, they don't die. If Xbox bows out of the ROG Xbox Ally, they don't die. If PlayStation drops it, they don't die. Meta drops this. I know Meta's Meta, but their technology side dies because this is the only thing. So I think you're going to see them keep it, and I think you're going to see the handhelds fade by the wayside.
Yeah, I think VR is in here for the long run because of Meta. Like if Meta wasn't involved, I think VR could be, singing its swan song, right? So I do think there's hope, but I also think that if Meta doesn't champion the indie who are truly creating unique experiences, then it might take way longer than it needs to be. But we still, at the end of the day, like you said, Kobe, is that content value. We need those killer apps, things that'll move hardware. So
Now
hopefully we'll see that.
I know we're in the world of subscriptions services out the ass. Everything has a subscription service, but I'm wondering if, Meta teams up with Xbox, or if Meta creates their own Game Pass like situation, which incentivizes people to come in and try these VR games for a lower barrier to entry, and then you get more exposure with these VR games coming. Like, let's just say, VR games start partnering with Game Pass at a certain point. Not saying that's happening. Like, not
they
at
did.
all.
They did. There was an Oculus Xbox.
That's very different though, because the Oculus Xbox had Game Pass subscription, but you can bring up like a screen on the VR.
Correct.
That
It
just
wasn't
plays
VR.
Yeah, I'm saying like actually have VR games on the subscription service to help incentivize people to go and try them.
Well, doesn't Steam have that now?
Steam doesn't have a subscription service.
No, doesn't Steam have VR on it? No.
I mean, yeah, you can buy VR games on there. I guess I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Okay, so you're just saying a subscription service to have the VR on there.
Well, I'm saying, for example, like a Game Pass, a lot of people go to Game Pass to try games, right? Like there's games that people would never buy, but Game Pass lets them try it and like, oh, we really like this. I'm saying at some point maybe have VR titles, especially smaller titles, come to a subscription service, or Meta makes their own, to help incentivize people to go and try these games rather than spending the $20, $30 here and there and saying, oh, this really isn't my thing.
There's a possibility, because then you can highlight the indies. I still shout out to Microsoft. They're the only company that really does.
Nintendo does that a lot too.
But not as much as ID with Microsoft.
DJ?
I think I cut out for a second. Guys, hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think I'm having some internet issues. What was the last thing?
Just talking about like, would and Bombay in the chat says, oh great, VR is a service now, and Shampoo says like VR demos, and Bombay also says I would like to see more AR than VR. But I just said, would a possibility of probably saving VR would be having a subscription like service, like the VR games go to a Game Pass, for example, or a Meta creates their own to help incentivize people to try these games rather than spending 20, 30
they actually do. I forgot the name. It's like a Game Pass version. I signed up for it. It's actually pretty good. But I still think it's about like when you go to your friend's house and they're playing on the Nintendo or the Xbox and you see that, you're like, oh, I would love to do that. VR doesn't have that like transfer friend thing, as much as console and PCs do. So I think people have tried to set up like VR stations at like Best Buy and different locations. But again, there's like a whole hygiene aspect in the mix of COVID, post-COVID. So there still is a barrier to like adoption. But I still think people are working on it and they're trying to get there. The Game Pass is an amazing, whatever they call it. It works really well, but I don't know that it attracts new adopters to the VR technology. So I just think it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
But see, there's where I'm back to, and I'll end my statements with this. You're back to, how do I not know as a gamer and an Oculus owner that there's this, VR Game Pass? But if you ask anybody, whether they subscribe or not, they know what Game Pass is. You could have a Sony pony out there that only plays PlayStation and knows what Game Pass is.
That's a good point.
That's my point. Like, they need to get out there, and Meta has the backing to do that and get out there and promote this stuff. But that's exactly full circle of how I started this, that how am I a gamer and I don't know that? Yeah.
And then real quick, Kobe, I just thought of this, like the MetaQuest 3 is fairly intuitive. You just, boots up fairly quickly. Whatever you've downloaded, you can get, going pretty good. It does get a little complicated if you want to do a PC VR game. So you have to get virtual desktop, you have to Airlink it, you have to connect with a cable, launch it. There could be some glitches there. Now that I thought about this, and I don't know why I didn't bring this up earlier, we were talking about like one of the key things is the content and then the streamers. It is such a pain to stream VR. Like it takes me sometimes 20 minutes to get everything set up, to get the audio set up, to get the screen in place. And so I can see why a lot of streamers wouldn't even mess with it because the technical loopholes and the glitches, and it becomes a headache. And like I was I love VR, and I stream VR. I streamed VR last week with a flight simulator, but it just takes so much time to get it set up. Whereas the PC, boom, you're live, ready to go. So
Yeah.
they got things to work out, but once they do, man, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And I think it's funny that you said like it becomes a hassle to play the PC games, and that can be a direct parallel to how we talked about handhelds, which is the Steam Deck versus the Ally X. Both have their technical difficulties that if you want to do one thing on the other, like you're going to be running into a lot of issues. So it's just a lot of these things do need to be streamlined for the general audience. I think if you, with both devices right now, if you aren't technically endowed, if you're not of that technical mindset, and you do like, I think that's the awesome thing about consoles is you turn it on, you press A or X, boot the game up, you're done. These things require a little bit of tinkering. They require a little bit of work. So there is a lot of streamlining that needs to be happening. Bombay says marketing has to step up, and Lady says also you cannot read the chat, which disconnects you from your fan base. I guess that's in relation to your streaming talk about the VR.
Yeah, because I can read the chat when it's a PC VR game, but there's some great Quest standalone games that I haven't streamed because you can't read the chat. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, oh, I'm not going to stream it. So, and that's like the Assassin's Creed, the Batman. You can't stream it. You can't read the chat. So
that's where you need a sidekick. A sidekick reading it to you.
Yeah, a lot of barriers everywhere. But I would like to start to close this down. Do either of you have any kind of final thoughts about this whole conversation?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in VR. I still think it's some of the greatest gaming you can experience. And I do think it's stalled out big time. And I do believe indie devs are going to save VR. And Meta needs to market with them because those are where the unique ideas are coming from the indie devs. But yeah, so big fan. I play it probably once a week. I stream it probably, 3 or 4 times a month. So I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. But yeah, it's definitely stalled out. And it needs like a little juice, a little punch in the arm or something.
Nope, I agree with you. And like I said, I think because that's Meta's technology that they just need to step up. And I believe that handhelds are a fad other than, before everybody shoots me, other than Nintendo, the Switch 2. And like I said, I think that the Steam Deck will survive.
Cool. Yeah, I kind of second all those thoughts that everyone has said. Well, thank you to each and every one of you for watching this, and thank you, DJ, for joining the podcast. It's always a blast having you on. This was a great conversation. I feel like there's still so much to even talk about because it is a whole corner of the market that doesn't get as much love as some may want. But that being said, this was the Father and Son Gaming Podcast right here on Active Reload Gaming. You can follow us on all of our socials right here on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Blue Sky. We are at Active Reload Gaming. Twitter or X, Twitch, we are at Active Rel. That's with an REL, Active Rel Gaming. Up here in the top left corner, you can join our Discord. Scan that QR code, hop in, start chatting with us. You can have conversations like this with us. So bring any kind of thoughts you have right there. We do stream also from time to time during the week. I'm either playing a game. My dad and I are playing some games together. This week is going to be very busy for me, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get a stream up, but we will be back every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific with the Father and Son Gaming Podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about Keeper and Outer Worlds 2, so very excited to start getting into that. That being said, I wish each and every one of you a great rest of your week, and we will see you all next time. Peace all.